本日は、ご来場いただきありがとうございます。今から始まりますのは、社会起業家って何という分科会でございますけれども、この本日プレゼンテーションを行うインパクテックはですね、2016年のソーシャルイノベーションフォーラムから参加していただいておりまして、2017、2018と社会起業家と、またテクノロジーが社会をどう変えるか、社会課題をどう解決するかというテーマでプレゼンテーションを行っていただいております。で、今日のセッションはですね、一部参加型のセッションとなっておりまして、実際にですね、皆さんに携帯を使っていただきながら社会を変えるアイデアをですね、出していただいたりとかして、社会起業家の誕生をもしかしたら目の当たりするかなと思っております。で、また社会起業家になるためのファーストステップをですね、ぜひ皆さんにご紹介して、ここから一人でも多くのですね、社会起業家が生まれればなというふうに思っております。では、Kinerat, floor is yours. Yeah, please.
So hi everybody. My name is Kinerat, and along with Yoav, I'm the co-founder of Impact Tech. We live in Singapore, and we came all the way. We're very excited to be here today because it's our third time presenting Impact Tech at the Social Innovation Forum. And a lot of people ask us all the time, they say, I have an idea, I want to start a startup, but they don't know how to. So today, what we'll do is Yoav will share with you how to start a social tech startup. And then if you have questions, we'll have time at the end. So Yoav.
Hi everyone. So today we are going to go into a journey together. This journey will start from the moment some of you may want to start their social tech business. They feel maybe they identified a certain problem that they want to solve, or they are looking for a problem to solve. So we'll take you in this journey through what is social tech, what is social tech startup, and what's unique in it compared to a normal startup. Then we'll talk about creativity, how you can create new idea, amazing idea, an idea that no one thought about it before. The journey will continue to how to start your business, and then how to tell the story, how actually you can pitch your startup or your story to investors, to potential partners, and to others that you want to harness into your vision. So let's start with the journey. What is social tech? We are living in a very, very unique time in the human race history. Those years are for the first time any individual can tackle meaningful social and environment issue by using technology which is affordable and accessible. This compared to the old days, which we had to rely on corporates and government to deal with big issues. And this is the new opportunity for individuals such as yourself to create a large-scale impact on the human race. Among the areas that social tech deal, it's aging population, food and nutrition, education, people with disabilities, and many others. This is just example to the areas that each of you actually can tackle and create meaningful global impact.
Text reading. A large rose tree stood near the entrance of the garden. The roses growing on it were white, but there were 3 gardeners. Face recognition. Jane. Money notes detection. $50. Product identification. Oatmeal square cinnamon. Barcode. Sausalito cookies, 7.2 ounce bag. Color detection. Gray area. Telling time and date. The time is 6:13 p.m. Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2017.
Quite an amazing technology to give eyes to the people who can't see. Let me share with you the history of this unique startup. It all started by the guy by the name Professor Amnon Shashua, an Israeli guy which 10 years ago woke up in the morning and said, how can it be that 1.2 million people die from car accident every year? More than all the global wars together. And how can it be that no one is doing enough to reduce those car accidents? Car manufacturers, for example, they care only about the one who sits in their car, that he will not be damaged. And governments do not use enough technology. They mainly deal with the infrastructure. So he started the company Mobileye. The company Mobileye was created in order to reduce car accident by giving another eyes or sensors to the car. And nowadays, this technology is the key technology behind the autonomous cars. 2 years ago, Professor Amnon Shashua woke up again and said, if I can give eyes to cars, why can't I give eyes to people who can't see? And he developed the Orcam technologies that I showed you. So you see the journey of a social tech entrepreneur that woke up with a certain problem. And then he looked for technologies to solve this problem. By the way, Mobileye was sold to Intel for $15 billion and now is the key technology behind autonomous cars globally. When we are talking about social tech, we are talking about combining 2 kinds of minds. A mind of a Gandhi that deals with a social aspect. You want to solve something that really means to us as a society. However, also have the brain of Henry Ford, a business-minded. Today, compared to the past, social tech is not anymore non-profits organization. Social tech refer to good startups that aims to create good business and good revenue to the owners, along with making positive impact. When we are talking about social tech, there is a term that I would like you to get familiar. The term is double bottom line. The first line, of course, is measuring the revenue or the financial results and resilience of the company. However, the second one is to measure the social and environmental impact. By the way, the second line is a bit more complicated to measure because sometimes there are several circles of impact. For example, the technologies that you just saw that allow people that can't see. Not only they become more independent, it frees other family members or caregivers that until now had to walk those guys in the system. So you see that the double bottom line have several circles or several circles of effect. The social entrepreneur look at both lines equally. While the first example that I showed you is very high technology, it's complicated, it's sophisticated. Social tech do not necessarily need to deal with sophisticated technologies. And I would like to give you another example for a very simple solution that create now huge impact. Actually a solution that each of you can start here in Japan. The story starts with someone who was driving a car, and there was a lady, it was in the middle of the night, and there was a lady hitchhiking, asking for a ride. He said, you know, it's not exactly my direction, but it's the middle of the night, let me take you home. And they drove the girl home. And the girl was very, she was very happy and said, how can I kind of pay back or thank you for taking this detour of half an hour to take me home? So the guy thought, you know what, just find someone else to do something nice to him. The guy went home and said, well, it's interesting. How can I create a more sophisticated system that if someone do something good, he can pass it on to another guy and another guy and another guy and create an endless chain of good deeds? And he started the Be Kind company or the Be Kind movement. What is this Be Kind movement? It's very simple. You get a card. You punch into a mobile application the card number, and once you do a good thing for someone, maybe you help him, you nurture him, you give good advice, you pass the card on, and you key in the good deed that you did. And those cards started to be populated around the world. And now there are more than 40,000 cards all over the world now of people who create on a daily basis good deeds. Very simple solution, but so nice, with such a nice effect to it. Those cards now are also, both companies that I showed you is Israeli companies. And in Israel now, those cards are very common to be given as a gift. Because we are living in a society that you have everything, everyone have everything, can access to everyone. And it's so nice to get such a card as a gift that actually remind you it's now your turn to do something good for someone.
Have you ever had one of those days? In a world where you can be anything, be kind.
Be kind. When you consider creating a social tech business, or also existing corporates now, they look at the following X. One is the impact that what you're about to do is about to generate, and the profitability of this business. Now, no one wants to be in a business that have low impact, and low profitability. Of course, it's quite clear no one wants to be there. This area belongs to mainly the NGOs and the voluntary organizations. Big impact, but related to revenue and profitability, questionable. This part belongs to the company who have small impact, however, looking at big revenue. But the interesting part is that both sides now are moving into high impact and high profitability. The NGOs around the world woke up and is in a process of waking up and understand that there is no reason why any organization can't generate revenue and be financially sustainable. Because traditionally, a lot of organizations, they receive donation, they consume the money, and they go back to ask for donation. And from who? From the taxpayer, from government, or rich companies. But it's not sustainable. So they are waking up and say, okay, it's time for us to look for sustainable business model. Here also come the area of technology, that we see all the NGOs start to adapt sophisticated technologies to fulfill their mission. In addition, we see that the traditional corporates that until now focused only on revenue, suddenly they wake up and said, okay, why can't we do both? On the contrary, if we create even bigger impact, it's likely to generate bigger revenue. And we look at many things, at many aspects. One is social responsibility department in big organizations that is growing, the budget is growing. Second, products and services start to be much more responsible. Today, for example, we live in Singapore. Singapore now is working hard on a new regulation related to packaging in order to make sure that companies do not just waste a lot of resources for packages and a plastic and another plastic and another carton box, that everything is going to the garbage. We see now new trends around the world of regulations around the connectors. Because if you can recall, 10 years ago, each phone had different charger and different connectors, and everyone had in his home a cupboard that you open and you fall from, was full of all kind of wires and connectors and chargers. Why? So you see in many, many aspects how the world is moving toward, let's create positive impact. Let's be more responsible without actually giving away the financial results. In addition, when we look at the companies or social tech companies, at least from impact tech eyes, we look at the following graph. One is the problem that this company wants to solve. Is it small or is it big? Will it really affect people's lives? Or it's just nice to have and irrelevant? The second thing is the size. How many people will be affected with this solution? They're a great solution, but eventually they affect a very small village, a very small community, a very niche problem. It's not interesting. Important, but less interesting, at least for us. We would like to see more startups and more innovative minds, such as yourself, who are looking to solve large-scale problems. Problems that are meaningful, as well as touch lives of large-scale populations. Before you start any business, but especially social tech business, you need to identify a problem. If you start without identifying a problem, it's like developing a key and looking for the right door. Usually, this kind of process of thinking is doomed to fail. First, identify a problem that you want to solve. And as I remind you from the previous slide, the problem needs to be meaningful enough and big enough. If you start there, you're in the right track to create a business that is profitable and create major impact. We move on with our journey for today, so we understand now what is social tech startup. But now let's talk about creativity, because you want to create something that is new, that is novel, that someone did not did before. So what is this creativity all about? Creativity is problem solving. However, it combines problem solving with relevancy and novelty. Now, all of us, when we are kids, we are all there. We are all creative. We create amazing ideas. We create amazing machines. We have amazing way of thinking. But in terms of relevancy, not so. As we grow, what happened is we are shifting to be only relevant. Only, let's solve this problem with the tools that I know. Let's do things only that are effective and efficient. And we are losing our kids in ourselves. And when we are losing the kids in us, we are losing the novelty. So creativity is bringing back the kid, combining with us the adult way of thinking, of relevancy, and coming with a new solution. What creativity is not? Creativity is not a talent. A lot of people tell me, well, I'm not creative. What does it mean, I'm not creative? What does it mean? There is nothing like, I'm not creative, or it's not related to artistic capabilities. Oh, this guy is artistic, he's an artist, he's very creative. It means it's not something that we were born with it, or we don't, or we have it, or we don't. It's a skill. Creativity is a skill, which means every one of you is a creative guy. There are now tools and mechanisms to generate creative ideas that can be taught. Same as an athlete. Every one of you can be a runner, right? Train a little bit, go to the gym, be a runner. You can't say, oh, I'm not a runner. What do you mean? Go train, be a runner. Because a skill can be taught. Oh, I can't play chess. Okay, you can't play chess yet. Learn and then you play chess. Or anything that you can think about. If it's a skill, you can improve. Let's look at in this session a few methodologies, how actually you can create creativity or take the creative kid within you out. First, a few principles. Many stupid ideas will bring a few good ideas. Creativity is quantity, not quality. From a lot of ideas, those amazing sparks shine. Which means in any process of bringing a creative idea, many suggestions, many ideas are the keys, is the key to find the creative one. You saw that I used the word process. So creativity or finding a creative idea is not like, oh, I woke up in the morning, I have one idea. No. It's always a certain process, layer after layer after layer. A very important technique to create creative idea is to generate artificial boxes. Artificial boxes are limitations, that those limitations stress us and squeeze us in all kind of aspects to find creative solution for the problems. Let's see a few examples of those boxes that I'm talking about.
Your oxygen tanks astir.
Roger that.
Hey, we've got a problem here.
What did you do?
Nothing. I stirred the tanks.
Whoa. Hey.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
Gene, we have a situation brewing with the carbon dioxide.
We had a CO2 filter problem on the lunar module,
5 filters on the limb.
which were meant for 2 guys for a day and a half. So I told the doc,
They're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain
Well, I
asphyxia.
suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Get my coffee going.
Gas is literally poisoning the astronauts with every breath in and out.
Heads up, heads up.
And spokespeople will not comment further.
Go. Heads up, people, look out now.
What's this?
That's what they gotta make.
"15 hours, otherwise they are dead. Only what they have in the spaceship, nothing else. Confined in a very small 2 meters on 2 meter cell. 3 limitations. If a problem would not be solved, game over for the astronauts." Those are the boxes that I'm talking about. I think that everyone or most of you are familiar with the situation. Apollo 13, carbon dioxide box that is round needs to be connected to a square hole. Otherwise, game over. Now, when we are creating those artificial boxes on us, suddenly we think in a creative way, in an imaginary way. And trust me, if now we have a problem here in this hole and doors are shut down and we need to find creative way to go out, and we'll have only limited amount of time, let's assume there is a typhoon or there is a fire outside and we have to find a solution in 2 hours, trust me that every one of you will come and will bring out his creative kid. And collectively, we'll generate tons of great ideas and we select the best of them and we'll find a solution. Because we will create this artificial box to the situation that we are. Those are the boxes that they had, I remind you. Limitation of time. Perfect box. I love this box. Whenever you need to find a solution in your company, in your organization, as a student, don't say that to the team or to yourself, okay, let's work on it. No. Create a box. We need to find a solution or to come with a problem solving within a day, 2 days, 2 hours, whatever you want, but create this box. And it can be big problems that related to transportation, to government management, to security, and it can be also small issues related to your school. Create the box of time. Second, limitation of materials. In most cases, in the modern world, or us that are not in a spaceship, the limitation of materials is limitation of financial resources. It's always a limitation. So make sure that this limitation is very clear, defined. Let's assume that I'm a startup and I need to find a certain, or develop a certain solution. I need to know that I have this budget. Don't keep it open. Don't keep it vague. And the last, limitation of space. Limitation of space, if we'll convert it to the startup world, is, for example, limitation of a market or a limitation of a regulator. I'm dealing with something that the regulator forced me to do this or that. Or due to certain other barriers, such as language barrier, or just a budget barrier, the limitation of space will be the market that I'm going to approach. As you know, the end, they found a good solution and they brought the astronauts home. So when you want to be creative, and each of you maybe go back to his company and maybe struggle with solution, sit with your team, sit with your colleagues, build those boxes. When we are talking about innovation, a lot is confused and think that innovation is only related to technology. But I would like to remind you that innovation can come in all kinds of shapes and forms. Let's see a few nice brands that create innovation in different areas. If we are talking about technology, Tesla is a very, very good example to a company that all their existence is purely on tech innovation. I remind you, when Tesla went into the car market, they were a very small player. They are still a small player, but it was controlled by giants. However, those giants fell asleep. Those giants kept on repeating again and again and again what they did for years. And Tesla came with a completely new approach. So an example for technology innovation. Second is Airbnb for business model. In the last few years, we see a lot of companies that actually their innovation is a different business model. Airbnb did not invent hotels. Airbnb did not invent rent your home. But they did create a new innovative business model which no one actually thought about. And we'll talk about Airbnb later again in this session. Positioning, Levi's. I love this example because what they took the most crappiest pants for hard-working people in the States. It was the cheapest, but hard pants. And they just rebranded, repositioned it to be something fashionable. And we see a lot of examples. How you take a certain product or service, which nothing very special in it, but just by new positioning this product or service, you create new added value to it. Emotional connectivity of the customers to the brand. Product stays the same. Last is operation. We see a lot of companies nowadays also that what they do is they took the operation and just perfected it and scaled it and used technology to magnitudes that no one actually saw before. And Amazon is a great example. Amazon did not invent the e-commerce, but they perfected the operation. So each of those examples, we are talking about innovation, but not only tech innovation. Which means the guys, a lot of people come to say, yeah, but I'm not a technical guy. How can I create new product, new solutions, to start a social tech startup? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Innovation is a process. You remember that I told you about it? Let's see the story of how GPS was created. I told you that creativity, it's not like you woke up in the morning, whoa, I have an idea and a perfect solution. It's a journey. It's a process. So if some of you think that the guy who invented the GPS just got lost in the desert or something like that and woke up with the idea, so this was not the story. The story starts in the 50s, where the Russians sent their first satellite to the sky. Sputnik, first one ever. Now this satellite, first the Russians want to, of course, also show off with a new satellite and also wanted to make sure that they know his position. So this satellite did beep, beep, beep. Aha. So of course the Americans put all their radars, whatever, to hear and listen to this beep, 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 see what's going on with this new strange thing in the sky. So while they are following this new satellite, Sputnik, in the sky, there was a general who came to the room where all those young guys were fascinating with Sputnik and said, guys, I have a problem. I have a few nuclear submarines running somewhere in the oceans, but we really don't really know where they are. So I have a question. Can you know, according to this beep beep, by using the Doppler effect, where the satellite is? So the guy says, yeah, sure, no problem. We know exactly where he is. So he said, okay, can you reverse engineer or reverse the calculations and know where I am? Or in that case, where my submarines are exactly. So they said, yeah, actually, no problem. Oh, okay. So if I have a satellite, I know where something on the ground can be. So here the initial seeds for the GPS were planted. However, it still took some time until they launched the full-fledged satellite. And in the beginning, by the way, the Americans did not want that the GPS will be accurate. They wanted to save these capabilities for the military capabilities. Only in the Clinton administration, after a huge accident happened, that could have been prevented to this vessel if he used GPS, they opened it to the GPS that we are all using. So why I told you this story? To show you that, again, innovation, an innovative idea is not like one-off. It's a journey. So it's not a flash, it's not a strike, it's not a light bulb, it's a process. I want to play a small game with you today. In this game, you will all use your mobile phones. This game, I'm asking a very simple question. What will you take to a deserted island? So in a minute, I'll show you what to do. You'll take off your phone, you go to a certain link, and I want as many ideas as you can. Let's just fly ideas. You'll have about 5 minutes. I want as many ideas as possible as what you will take to a deserted island. Please take your phone. In the browser, click Slido, SLI.do. The code is SIF. And you have 5 minutes. What will you take to deserted island?
When you open the Slido, after you enter the code, you will see on top you can choose between question and poll. Please choose the one that says poll. P-O-L-L-S. Anybody have any problems? I can come and help you. Raise your hand if you do.
We'll start to see your ideas as you broadcast them.
.皆さんお答えはですね、一人何個も送っても結構ですので、あらゆる限りので、別に日本語でもできますので、後で、はい、でお困りの方手を挙げていただければ。リンクですけども、ホームページは、検索ウィンドウに sli.do スライドで、その後にすぐコードネームを入れるところがあるので、それを、SIF というふうに入れていただければいけるかなと。答えはもうガンガン入れて、もうあそこにビューティフルガールっていう答えをしてると思いますけど。
Very good. Keep on doing. Volume, the amount, quantity, not quality. More ideas. Throw any ideas that you have.
May I translate if it's in Japanese?
No problem.
No?
It's okay.
All right.
Okay, one more minute. Okay. Very good. More ideas. Throw. Quantity. Ta. Don't think too much. Let's leave the phone aside a second. And I would like to show you something interesting. You're okay? Okay. When this drill started, I'm looking at the answers, it all started with things that are very simple. Tent, knife, food, knife again. things that are boat, fire, lighter, food, hands. Good idea. GPS, fishing tool, etc. Stand, swimming. So it all started with ideas that are all relevant, life-saving, but not innovative. And then what happened is, as we kept on throwing ideas, suddenly we get ideas such as you know, this was a bit the middle of the time, and there's a little bit after the middle, we started Kindle, or I saw Donald Trump somewhere, or I saw, where's the beautiful girl? I like this, by the way, you know. Dream, all kind of really, really strange, innovative stuff. Sunscreen, nice. Plant seeds, all kind of innovative stuff, until basically, Mr. Krish, it's nice. So what we saw, I would like to show you. Okay. What we saw now is a graph of innovation. As the time started, you started to punch idea, and you were in the relevancy area. The knives, the fire, the fishing rope, the food, all relevance. And then you all started to feel that, I don't have any idea, what is, I'm losing my ideas. And then amount of ideas dropped. And then you may have a new spark with a few more ideas. Oh, this is nice. Beautiful girl, Donald Trump, seeds, all kind of those crazy stuff. And then again, you probably start to feel that the ideas is dropping. This is the magical part. In this part, those ideas that are innovative, crazy, some are relevant, are being created. So if we will not play with what we will take to deserted island, but how actually we can find meaningful solution for handicapped people, or meaningful solution in the transportation, or meaningful solution now for homeless people now that they lost their home in a typhoon, and we need to put them somewhere in a very short time and find them shelters from materials that we may have or may not, or any other complicated problem, we are likely to use this process. We would think together. We will start throwing those ideas. The relevant ideas may be okay, but this is not what we are looking for. We will look for the novelty, for the strange ideas, and we'll start screening them. 99% will be useless. But this one idea, this is what we are looking for. And this new one idea is the Google, this Facebook, is this Airbnb, or of course in our area, it's impactful solution to a big problem. So this is an example to a process of innovation that companies now start to adopt, as well as government agencies, to solve complicated problems. In addition, innovation is stitches of ideas, of thoughts, of talks, of dreams. So, in order to create innovation, share, talk, don't hide, don't think that your idea is a magical idea and you can't share it because people will copy it. as running an Impact Tech Accelerator, the first question that every entrepreneur come to me and said, look, I have a great idea, but I don't want to share with anyone because it's wow, it's such a big idea. And then I explain them that the benefits from sharing, from discussing, will be much greater than keeping the idea to yourself. So, to all of you, don't be afraid to share your ideas with others. Those ideas will just grow and grow to be more innovative, more interesting. So the ones who actually think that they have great idea and afraid to share with others, don't be. Good ideas do not come from analyzing data. If your boss tell you, I need good idea, here's a pile of books, here's a pile of researchers, this is the website that you need to research, tell him, no. This definitely will not take you to a good idea. Definitely not. So innovation will not come from a research. As I mentioned, spend time to share your ideas, less to connect and protect them. Another very interesting technique, which I highly recommend you to do, is when you are looking for a new solution, which should be innovative, or just a new name to your product or to your company, go outside of your comfort zone or the area that you mostly play around with. Go to an area that is completely different. And when I say go to a completely different area, oh, great, perfect. When I'm saying that a completely different area, I really like going to the supermarket. So, whenever a startup comes to me, I'm looking for a new name for a product or new name for my company, etc. I tell them, and it's, play with some idea, go to the supermarket. See all the names of the cornflakes and the chocolates and this product and that product. It's completely outside of your comfort zone, and they all come with me. Oh, it's 100% success. They all come, I found great name for my product. It just happens. Now, in terms of the area that you want to play, in terms of uniqueness or novelty, and the value that you generate, I think that, by the way, I use those graphs, as you see, quite a lot, because it's simple to grasp. It makes sense and it's not complicated. Well, you definitely don't want to be to create a product that have no uniqueness and no value. Quite straightforward, right? You don't need to be a genius to think about it. The problem with a product that is unique and it's no value, I would usually call it university project or kids project. Okay, it's innovative, it's nice, it's cute, but does it really provide meaningful value? Questionable. This is a problem, I think, at least in some areas that we operate in Impact Tech in Asia. We see a lot of those things, that people come and they have an idea and think, wow, I have a great idea. And they start to tell you about this or that application or this or that platform that they want to build. But yeah, it is original. Yeah, it is cute. Yes, it is. But value, if it brings, questionable. If you're bringing only value without uniqueness, what are you entering into? Into a price war, right? Nothing special in what you do. Great product, great service. So the one actually that will do the same and will just sell it cheaper will take the market. Don't be there. Now I'm saying no, don't be there, but if you are big enough, if you are McDonald's or if you are Starbucks or if you are Google, you can play in this area. But as a startup and a social tech startup, you cannot afford to be in an area which will take you to a price war. You want to be there. Novelty with a lot of value. So, just to conclude this part, everyone can be creative, and I gave you a few very simple and easy techniques how to create creative ideas. Talking about the boxes, for example, the sharing, and a lot of stupid ideas will bring great ideas. We continue our journey. By the way, anyone have questions until now? If you have, let me know. Anyway, in the end, we will have also time for more questions. We will move on, and you ask yourself, okay, we got it, and we definitely, we think we have a really big problem that we identified and we want to solve, and we want to start our social tech startup. We want to make sure we tackle meaningful social issue, and also we want to make sure it makes money to us, to our investors. But how do we start? So let's talk about how you start a startup. The most important methodology that was developed 10 years ago, called the Lean Startup. It's a methodology that was created in order to increase the chances of a startup to succeed significantly. Until then, people believed that you create a startup and maybe it's a success, maybe it's not, it's a lot of luck, maybe a lot of talent, but there was no methodology. And I remind you that in the past, for any other corporates or companies, a lot of methodologies were created. It started from the Industrial Revolution, from the ISO standards, and many others. But for startups, they didn't have, until the Lean Startup methodology. So, what is this Lean Startup methodology, and how you can apply it to make sure that your potential startup that you're creating will be a success? First of all, let's understand what is a startup. What is a startup? What actually is different from someone who opened an izakaya or opened a shop to fix phones to a startup? Well, the definition of startup is to create new product or service in conditions of extreme uncertainty. This is a startup. Now, when I'm talking about extreme uncertainty, is compared, for example, izakaya. When you open izakaya or a pub, most of the things you clearly know. You know how much the beer will cost. You know how much you can sell the beer. You will know what are the expenses or the fixed cost of running the business. You know a lot. If it will succeed or not, no one knows. People like it, like the atmosphere, like the place. But more, you know a lot compared to a startup that is a very extreme uncertainty. And when we are talking about uncertainties, we are talking about mainly about technology. Can we build it? Can we create this GPS thing? Can we create this robot? Customers, will people use it or buy it? Okay, we will launch this Airbnb great website. Will someone actually use it? I don't know. Business model. Can actually we make money out of it? Maybe creating this product is so expensive and so complicated, actually a business model doesn't make sense. A lot of those things we really don't know before we start the journey. So how actually we can increase our chances to succeed? And here comes the Lean Canvas or the Lean Startup methodology. Let me show you how we do it. First, we need to remember that everyone has a plan in starting their own startup, and the plan looks like this: perfect, smooth sailing. I'll be extremely rich, I'll create great impact, and everything is honky-dory. But we know that the reality is like this. So we ask ourselves, how actually we are jumping with our startup to a reality which is such an extreme, uncertain journey. Let's go back in the years, which the notion or the belief was, in order to create a good business, you need to create a very, very detailed business plan. It was very thick, it was very big, and it created the perfect product that you want to launch. It included very thorough market research. It included a lot of researchers. it included all the features and capabilities of the product that you want to launch. It included in details all the financial of your business, including how many pens you'll have in the office and what they will cost. You know, those endless Excel, useless endless Excels that people use to create. So this traditional business approach is not applicable for startup. And why? The reason is it allowed you, in most cases, to fail only once. You invested now a year of planning and researching and learning. And you locked this business plan and now let's execute it. But the reality of a startup in an extreme uncertainty is not a reality that we can predict. So how can we create a product, such a detailed business plan and think that it will work? It didn't. And a lot of time, the result was building something that no one really wanted. And there are endless examples in our world of product that big companies actually invested millions and sometimes billions and actually no one wanted. As a startup, we cannot afford ourselves to go into this journey. We want a new journey. We want a journey that we can try and fail many times until we get it right. The lean startup approach is completely different. Instead of creating a huge business plan, we are talking about something that is fast and very cheap to release to the market. We are talking about a solution that gives you the multiple chances to fail, but also multiple chances to check yourself and pivot if needed. If you compare it to a poker game, the traditional business plan approach was all in. I put all my resources in the product or service. Maybe I win, but if not, that's it, I'm out of the game. Compared to the lean startup approach, which allows you each time to put a bit more chip in the game. You can fail, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but overall, you have a strategy, a long-term strategy to make sure that your startup can succeed. The most important word that I would like you to remember from this session today, most important, it's MVP, minimal viable product. This is the core of the lean startup methodology, and this is a methodology now that each startup now uses globally. What is this minimal viable product? This strange MVP thing that everyone is talking about. The MVP, first of all, it's a minimal set of the features in your product that you believe will solve the solution. Let's assume that you are launching a certain website with some capabilities, but you have a Rolls-Royce in your mind. Start with a small car, start with a small Hyundai. Basic features. However, those features should solve the key problem that you want to solve. Or they bring the main value of your product. Now imagine yourself every product around you. Imagine yourself a certain website that you go, a platform, application, or physical product. They have lots of bells and whistles. But there is one thing, that this is the core of the product. Launch it first before all the bells and whistles. Second thing is something that can be measured and tuned. It means you need to create a product that you can launch it, but measure. Measure what? Depends. Measure how many people downloaded, how many people used it, how many people paid for it. Depends. I don't know. It's up to you, up to the product. But if you launch a product and say, oh, let's see if it goes, can you measure if it's working as you and growing as you predict? No, I don't know. Let's see. Not a good idea. Now, the last thing is, doesn't have to be the same form as the final product. It doesn't mean that it's your final product, but it brings the core value that you believe your product should give. Imagine yourself that MVP is not a product that no one can use. but it's not the castle that you dream of. It's somewhere in between. What is it? Up to you. Really depends on the product and service. And it's not easy. It's not easy to identify in your product or service what is the key value that you would like to give. Now, I'll give you a very simple example to the traditional business plan or the traditional way to build a company compared to the MVP approach by baking a wedding cake. So the traditional approach is the following. First of all, you create something, kind of the cake base, and then you put the filling. But remember that the cake base is not something that you can test. You cannot sell it. No one wants it. You cannot check if people like it. You put the filling. You can't go and ask, okay, can you pay $5 for a cake filling? No, it doesn't work so good, right? You can't measure anything. And then you put the icing, and then you have a wedding cake. And as you know, remember the poker is all in, and let's see if people like my wedding cake. Maybe yes, but if not, game over. Compared to the MVP, I will start with a cupcake. Cupcake is a complete product, full-fledged product that I can, for example, bake a few cupcakes to my daughter's birthday. I give to the kids. They taste, can give me feedback. They like it, they don't like it, they like the cream, prefer chocolate, prefer vanilla. I start to collect data. What was the cost of the material? What was the cost of the oven? What was the cost for me to deliver it to the kids? I start to collect tangible data. And then, sorry. And let's go back. Yeah. And then, after my cupcake, I create a basic cake. So I learned a lot. Kids prefer this chocolate. I got new supplier for the sugar or whatever. I created a cake. Again, a full-fledged product that I can sell, I can provide, I can gather data. And you got the principle, a larger cake, and eventually, my wedding cake will be a product that I know for sure that people like, and they are willing to pay, and I know for sure how much it cost me, and I learned a lot in the journey. Now, companies today, not only startup now, start to use this MVP. And I'll give you an example. Since Japan is so strong in car manufacturing, even today car manufacturing, what they're creating concept cars. It's not a real car. It's a car that some people can test, some people can drive, some people can give inputs before they launch the full commercial model. But we'll see a lot of other examples that are mainly related to impact startups. So I think this gives you an idea of the traditional business plan. Planning, releasing one product, maybe people like it or not, or releasing step by step. But it's not easy, because to identify again, what is the core product that gives value to your customers, it's not easy. It's not easy to identify what is your cupcake. Now, every business starts with assumption. The assumption is the problem that you want to solve. So you assume there is a problem, and you assume you have a solution for this problem. Who can guess who did this assumption? In a city where space is extremely limited, people will pay small amount of money for small amount of space. They don't need a hotel. I'm sure you can guess. Airbnb. Now, why I took this example of Airbnb as assumptions, because it's such a crazy assumption, it's such a radical assumption, that they had no choice but to start small with MVP. Because if I would tell you 15 years ago, listen, instead of going to a hotel and you're going to another country, let's assume you're going to Berlin, you will sleep in some people place that you don't know, and yeah, they will stay in the same house, and you'll stay on the sofa, and maybe you're a girl in a house of men, maybe not so comfortable. you probably will tell me, you're crazy. I don't know those guys. It's different country, different culture. It's crazy. I'm going to a hotel. Such a bold assumption. Such a bold assumption. And we see those, we see those kind of bold assumptions again and again and again. Let's imagine YouTube. If I tell you like 20 years ago, there would be a website which people will upload all kind of videos that they created by themselves, and it will be the second largest, most important search engine. You probably said, "You're crazy. Why people should take videos and upload it into my personal video? It's a lot of time to make." And I remind you that when YouTube was created, the mobile phone with a video camera did not exist. People used this, cam recorded. It's bold assumptions. It's bold assumptions. So, the story of Airbnb started with, they understood that their assumption is so crazy that they need to launch a very, very basic MVP to see if someone actually will be willing to look at this crazy assumption. So, they launched a blog. In this blog, they offered their place, 2 air mattresses and breakfast. This is why they called Airbnb. And they posted it and said, okay, let's see what's going on. Suddenly, 2 guys and a girl register. And then they said, okay, our MVP was okay, interesting. People are willing for this, to go for this concept, and they increased it a little bit. It still was not really a platform or a website. It was more sophisticated blog. And as they grow, still it was a very small business, and they start to measure and see if it started to take off, and it didn't. And again, they stopped. I mentioned in the lean startup methodology, you always measure yourself. Every time after the cupcake, you measure, after the cake, you measure. So they said, okay, why people are not using it more? And they identified a problem, that the pictures that people post of their homes are not nice. Just, messy room, messy kitchen. It looked bad. So what they did is they started to go themselves to take pictures of the rooms in Airbnb, and it started to grow. And it was not an easy journey, hard to receive money, hard to raise money, but the rest is history. But just to show you how such a huge success starts with the minimal viable product. Now, a few small examples for companies that you know that also started with an MVP. Dropbox. Well, again, they started with a crazy assumption that says, okay, people will transfer files by uploading to this cloud thing that no one really knew what is it back then, and someone else can take the files and take it back. And it's a big, bold assumption, because those files are maybe my company files, maybe my secrets, maybe my business, and I'm sending it to some kind of server in the cloud. Why should people do it? So they launched a very, very basic platform, which was the MVP to see if people actually will adopt this model. And it did.
To store their files in the cloud. They gathered 1 million users just 7 months after their public launch. The story of Dropbox is coming up. The idea for Dropbox was conceived by university student Drew Houston after he kept forgetting his USB memory stick. He originally built the solution for himself, but soon realised others could benefit from it. He and fellow student Arash Fadowsi co-founded Dropbox as a startup in 2007, officially launching the service for the public the year after. When they first released their product, an innovative method of increasing the number of sign-ups was to post a video to the website Dig, which was a precursor to Reddit. In the video, Drew Houston is performing a formal demonstration, but in the background, lots of funny things are happening, and there are Easter eggs designed to catch your eye. The creative approach worked, and overnight they'd gained 75,000 sign-ups. Dropbox offered a basic free version and a subscription-based paid version, which offered more storage space. The The popularity continued to snowball, with 1 million users after 7 months and 10 million users a year later. Steve Jobs approached Drew Houston in 2009 and suggested that he should sell Dropbox. Houston declined to sell his company, preferring to stay independent. Since then, it has gone on to have 400 million users across the world.
Again, Dropbox, huge company, they started with a very basic MVP to see if it will work. I think, okay, interesting startups, but what about, you told us that even huge companies now adopt the model of the lean startup approach and releasing MVP. I'll give you an example. Google. Before Google launched their Gmail, they had assumption that maybe people will go into and will start to adopt Gmail. However, they were uncertain with this assumption because this assumption is crazy. As you know, each of you, your mailbox is the digital platform that you invested the most. Your secrets are there, your business interaction are there, all your contacts are there, thousands of documents, thousands of interactions. And I'm telling you now, move to another one. Huh? Really? Even Google was so afraid that people will not actually adopt their Gmail. Although Google already had a very strong brand, but people, I remind you, used or Hotmail or Yahoo Mail or the mail servers in the organizations, such as Microsoft Exchange or Lotus Notes, whoever remember those names. So they came with this, they were afraid with this assumption. So what they released is an MVP. It was a very basic email application, very basic. They had a few new things like threading the communication, but it was not with bells and whistles that you have now in Gmail, because they wanted to see if really people will be willing to move from their traditional Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, and others to Gmail. And only once their MVP kind of worked, they kept on developing the Gmail. Now, we spoke about that you launch your MVP. So imagine yourself, now you identified a social problem, and you create your startup, and you launch the minimal viable product. And I'm telling you, but you need to validate, you need to measure. So what you measure? First of all, you measure the customer problem. Is the problem big enough or meaningful enough to solve? Second is the product concept. Is your solution a solution that people are willing and want to adopt? And also, if the minimal feature set solve the problem. And here is the challenge of releasing an MVP that really answer or solve the problem that you want to solve. Now, if everything fail, or one fail, and you think, I need to change, we call it to pivot. Now, what is this concept of pivot that I assume you've heard? And it's so common when we are talking about startups, mainly in the lean startup methodology. Pivot means that you're not changing your vision. You're not changing the problem that you want to solve. However, you are taking a different route to get there. Let's see a few examples of pivots, and also we'll give examples of startups that pivoted in the way. First pivot, zoom in pivot. What is zoom in pivot? It what was considered to be a single feature become the entire product. Let's see an example. Instagram. Instagram started with a location-based social network. In addition, Instagram started with a solution that fitted a few games. One of the games was called Mafia Wars. Now, Instagram had a lot of bells and whistles and capabilities and activities. However, eventually, there was only one feature from all their platform that made Instagram what's Instagram today. It's basically the ability to share photos and videos. And I'm sure all of you use Instagram. And this is the only capabilities that they have. All the rest are kind of, small stuff. So this is what we call the zoom in. Take one feature, make it your product. Another example for the customer need pivot is the problem solved is not meaningful enough or is not big enough. And let's identify a different problem. Great example is PayPal. Well, when PayPal started, they started with the idea how to actually beam transaction in the Palm Pilot era and the beepers era. Now, soon after they launched, they understand the market is too small, the solution is crappy, and the problem is not big enough. And back then, just the e-commerce started. So they identified, okay, we need to pivot. We still, our vision to allow electronic payment between people and make it peer-to-peer, person-to-person. It didn't change, but they understood that all what they wanted to do in terms of the Palm Pilot and beepers is not relevant, and they moved to the internet, and the rest is history. As you can see, both Instagram as well as PayPal, they launched the product, but they measured. They did not keep on banging themselves against a wall, and we see a lot of entrepreneurs that launch a product or a service, they do not measure, it's not working, it's failing, and they're doing the same again and again and again. And it keep on, of course, failing again and again and again. And great startups, great companies, they measure all along the journey, and if needed, they pivot. Another example is Groupon. Groupon started from a platform that they will collect many people for a common cause, and eventually they pivoted in order to collect many people, but to sell coupons. So the power of the crowd to receive cheaper coupon, cheaper deals from retailers. Another example to a pivot is the zoom out pivot. What was considered to be the entire product now become only a feature in the new product. I'm sure that all of you, or a lot of you, saw maybe the movie of Facebook. It all started with a certain feature that they posted 2 pictures of girls and boys in the university, and people had to choose which they like more, which eventually this part became minuscule part in the Facebook whole platform and eventually disappeared completely. So again, how a small feature basically or become irrelevant compared to the full-fledged of the product itself. Platform pivot from moving from application to a platform or vice versa. Customer segment pivot, the product is valuable, but the intended customer are not basically the customers that are willing to pay or want to use the product. We see it quite a lot. So we see companies that release really, really great product, but it really doesn't meet the specific customer segment that they aimed to. If we go back to the examples of cars, what Tesla did compared to other electric cars that were in the past, they aimed for the high-end population. They started with a Tesla sport car. Compared to a lot of others that launched the first electric car, and what they launched to people who are more environmentally cautious, to the common people. It didn't work. Tesla took a different direction. They understood that the previous electric car manufacturers aimed to the wrong segment. And they aimed to the high end, which people were inspired. So, okay, if this rich guy drive this Tesla, I want also. So this is another example. I would like to show you another example to a company that you may know also. And their, I would say, their journey in pivot in order to succeed. The company is Musical.ly. In November 2017, Musical.ly was sold for $1 billion. Now, for the ones who don't remember or don't know what Musical.ly, because usually it's being used by a very young generation, just I would like to show you.
Why you gonna do like that? Why you gonna keep that thing from me? Why you gonna do like that? Why you gonna act like you don't know? No, baby, don't do like that. Girl, come feed me, don't be stingy. Why you gonna do like that? No, baby.
The master of my CEO. Ooh. I was broken from a young age, taking my soak into the masses, writing my poems for the few that look at me, took at me, shook at me, feeling me, singing from heartache, from the pain, taking my mess.
I'm so tired. I gotta sleep, cause I've been.
Why you gonna do like?
So the concept of the application is quite simple. Music is played and you record yourself or you film yourself lip singing this music. It became a huge success. It's still a huge success. It was sold for $1 billion. But let's see the journey of this company. Let's learn how actually they use the lean startup methodology and the pivot concept to be where they are today. Well, Musical.ly started by the name Cicada. And Cicada, the founders had a vision that people will record 5-minute videos. They will teach others to do things like how to make coffee, how to solve math, how to change a tire in your car. And they launched it. They thought it's a big idea, but it completely failed. Why? First of all, there's a lot of alternative. Go to now to YouTube, how to change a car or how tire and how to make coffee. You'll find thousands of videos. Second, people did not create quality movies. They did not create quality 5 minutes that actually could distinguish Cicada from the rest. So it completely failed. However, what they knew is that they developed a very unique, strong video capabilities. So they said, okay, we need to pivot fast, and they used these strong video capabilities, and they changed the name and launched it the Musical.ly. However, there was a problem. They launched the product, people liked it, people shared, but shared once. There was no viral effect. Now, for this company, if there is no viral effect, the company will go down. Why? Because the customer acquisition cost is very high. If I need now to do a lot of marketing, and every customer that I need to acquire will cost me, let's say, $10, so I will burn $1 million just to receive 100,000 users. Without a viral effect, it will go down. So they thought, why people are not keep on sharing it? Because it's really cool, and people liked it. They measured, and what they identified is when you share the video, there was no logo and no link and no one knew that it came from Musical.ly. Now, if I'm a very cool kid in the classroom and I have this cool video and I share, I don't want to tell others how I did this cool thing, right? So it was a problem. All what they did is make sure that every shared video, the logo and link of Musical.ly was there, and the rest was history. So the story of Musical.ly, again, it's a process of launching an MVP, measuring, pivoting, not one-time success. Who used to play Angry Birds? Okay. Angry Birds was a very, or now less, but huge success around the world. Now, I was lucky and privileged to sit in a panel with the founder from Rovio, and I spoke with him and I asked him, what was the secret to the success of Angry Birds that still considered to be one of the most successful games ever? So he told me, Yoav, listen, I tell you, this is the real story. I made 62 failing games. We were about to shut the company. We were almost, desperate. But we knew that this is what we like to do. And we knew that we are passionate about it. And we decided to keep on because they believed, and their persistence made them release the 63rd game, which was Angry Birds. And then I told him, yes, but how it was such a success? So he said, okay, along the way, we identified a few things. And those are the three things that they identified. Is one, people are getting addicted to short sessions. It's like a casino. You go to the casino, there is no long session. Every turn of the roulette takes a minute. Every turn of the card in the blackjack is half a minute. Those short sessions create addiction. So if you can recall from this game, it's a very short session that you throw those chickens on the pigs. This addiction, actually, it drives people to again and again play, another session, compared to long games that takes hours and hours. First. Second, they measured and understood that people like humor. And imagine yourself all the latest videos that you shared with your friends. Most of them, or a lot of them, are because they were funny. So people like to share things that are funny. So instead of killing aliens or zombies, they throw these funny chickens on the pigs, which was really nice. And the third thing is, they invested a lot in the music. And whoever played Angry Birds, when I started the video, probably said, familiar, Angry Birds, I know the music. And why? Because they understood that most of the time people play on the phone. And when you're on the phone, usually you're around people. So people can listen to what's going on. So also it's create a viral effect. Oh, I know this music. What are you playing? Oh, I want also, So those three things of humor, small sessions that create addiction, and the music, he believes this is the secret to the success of Angry Birds. But again, he measured. It's not a luck. It's measuring and changing. To conclude this part, so we are talking about the lean canvas methodology. First of all, we build an MVP, the minimal viable product. The minimal product that you believe answer the problem that you want to solve. You release it and you measure it. If you can't measure it, don't bother release it. And then change, modify, and if needed, pivot. And again, and again, and again. So this is the lean startup methodology. Now, we understand the methodology, but let's give you a practical tool of how do you start. Okay, nice, I have an idea. I want to start. So, here come what we call the lean canvas. The lean canvas replaces the traditional business plan. The lean canvas is only one page. And the lean canvas is relatively fast to create. It's very effective. And not necessarily reflect your future product. It's how you believe your future product will look like. However, compared to the traditional business plan that you write it once and it is stored, the lean canvas is always changing. The lean canvas have several areas which the team or the founder, usually they feel together. Not only the management or the founder. Usually working as a team, it's very efficient. I would like to take you through the concept of the lean canvas by using the example of the lean canvas of Amazon. Let's go through it together and we'll show you how relatively it is simple, however so effective. First, start with the problem, right? So the problem that they identified is the books are expensive. Limited inventory, because you go to the shop, only the books that the shop have, right? It's limited inventory. And the last thing is that hard to find recommendation. You go to a bookshop, you ask the seller, hey, can you recommend me a book? Maybe she's in your taste, maybe she's not. They identify it as a problem. In addition, what they identified that the existing alternatives of bookstores or the catalogs were not good enough. I remind you, we're talking about the days of the beginning of the e-commerce. No one sold books in the internet. And in addition, there was a lot of notion, oh, books, no, people like to go to the bookshop and touch the books and look at the books, etc., etc. So also, we are talking about quite a bold assumption. Customer segment. They said, okay, who are we targeting? So the customer segment was the people who buy books, clearly, but who will be the early adopters? And they believe the early adopters will be the readers that are willing to buy the books on the internet. Who are they? They didn't know yet. But they understood that those will be the early adopters. Revenue stream. 2 revenue streams. One is the books, and the other is the shipping. Now, I would like to tell you something about revenue stream. Revenue stream, or the revenue of a company, is not always straightforward. I'll give you an example. In Singapore, there are a lot of bike rental companies. I know that also in Japan, bike rental companies. Those, you use the app, you release the bike. You know from how they make their money? Not from the rides, but from the deposits. So a lot of time, the revenue stream is not straightforward. So does Amazon. They understood that in some aspect the books must be so cheap that they need also to rely on the shipping fee to cover their cost. The solution that they offered initially was clearly, everyone knows, a website to sell books online. However, they assumed that maybe in the future also they'll have distribution centers. What they didn't know yet, that the technology of the digital printing actually boomed, and it will allow you now to print the book that you order. So now Amazon, for all the long tail, all the books that are not very popular, as you order them, they are being printed. But this is also the concept of a company that is flexible, because if they would not adopt this new technology, maybe they had to rely on huge warehouses to their books and to hold huge long tail of books that are rare. But they adopted quite fast to the digital printing era. Unique value proposition. The Earth's largest bookstore. As an entrepreneur, you cannot afford yourself to have a small dream or a small vision. It's a nice vision, the Earth's largest. If you want people to believe in you, if you want investors to follow you, if you want partners to invest in you, make sure you dream big enough. Otherwise, it's not interesting. Imagine yourself that their unique value proposition was, we want to be the largest in New York. Oh, okay. Large in the States also, okay, but Earth's largest. It's a nice dream, sounds good. Next, channels, direct to consumers via their website, quite clear. Lastly, the key metrics is how actually they can measure their success. We talked about measurement, right? So in their case, what they want to measure is the sales conversion per visitor, conversion rate. Someone come to the site, what is the percentage of people that actually become customers? They want to measure the ticket size, or what we call the average sale, and lastly, the total sales per visitor. As you can see, they didn't care about revenue, they didn't care about profit. It's not relevant in the early stage of a company. First, see that your business model works. No one cared at this point, and they did not care at those early stage to measure their overall revenue. They want to see if this concept, which was completely new, selling books online, which books, again, was traditionally people said, okay, who will buy online? I like to, go, touch, check, consult. They launched an MVP and succeeded. I will go a bit faster now, I think, because we are a bit of stretched in time. Okay, and I would like to take you to the last part. So we spoke about, okay, you have an idea and how you create innovative ideas. We talked about how you start your startup, how you launch your minimal viable product. And now you need to tell your story. You need to tell people about your startup. Why? Because you want to pitch for money. You want to bring partners. You want to convince others to join your journey. And you have nothing to give apart from your story. You don't have money yet. You don't have product. You don't have a success. You have nothing. You have a story. You have a vision. So how you tell a story is a key thing for the success of your startup. A very bold entrepreneur 400 years ago came to the king of France and said, look, I have an amazing startup, crazy startup, I need you to fund me. His story was so-so, king threw him away. He went to the king of France. He said, okay, I have a great startup, amazing, huge opportunity. His story was so-so, he was kicked out. He went to the king of Portugal. He was kicked out, but he perfected the story. And when Christopher Columbus arrived to the king of Spain and to the queen of Spain, which was King Ferdinand and the Queen Isabel, the perfect story just worked. And he was funded. His startup to take the ships and go west was funded. He received the fund and did quite well. Now the story of him was, first of all, he spoke about the opportunity, the spices that he will bring, if indeed he will sail west and find India. So the opportunity. He sold the opportunity, and he sold it good. Huge financial opportunity compared to the traditional convoys that went to the other side of the world, which was long. They were robbed. It was a complicated journey. Second, he told about the upside. He said not only that the opportunity of bringing those spices, the upside of opening a direct route, a direct channel to what he thought will be India, will open new enormous unknown opportunities for you, Mr. King. Lastly, what he sold the crew or the team. He said, we are experienced team. We are sailing for years and I am experienced captain. Believe in me. The story was perfect and he was funded. Unfortunately, I see a lot of entrepreneurs today, what they do is brag about the ships, about the product. Oh, I have a great product. It's really full of features. It's really fantastic, cutting edge technology. This is not a story. Imagine yourself that Columbus, instead of telling about what I told you about, the opportunity, the upside, he would talk about the ships. Look, great ship, big sails, wow. Sail very fast. Who interested? It's not interesting, no one. So he did the story right. Let's talk about techniques of telling the right story. We move quite fast now, toward the end. Thousands of years ago, the best storyteller ever, Aristotle, he developed the methodology to tell the story in three concepts, of three methodologies, which is ethos, pathos, and logos. Which means, first of all, ethos. Who am I to convince you to do it? Oh, I'm a student, I learned this and that, I have experience in this and that, I worked in company this and that, I researched this and that. This is your ethos. The second thing is a pathos, is a direct peer-to-peer to your emotions. And the lastly is a logos, is a direct connection to your mind, to your logic. If I get this right, the story will be heard. I will be able to convince people to follow me with my vision. Thousands of years ago, he said, Aristotle, those methodologies, still relevant. Telling a story, first of all, intrigue. You have a startup, you worked on it for a year, there are a lot of details in your startup. Don't tell all your story, all your burning journey. Tell what intrigues, what's interesting, what's relevant, what makes people curious about you. Second is introduce yourself, keep it short. I see entrepreneurs that said, okay, I studied in an university and I did this and who cares? Tell only what is unique to you and others do not. If I start and tell about myself, oh, I have MA from this university, who cares? A lot of people have MA. But if say, okay, I did this and that, and I was part of a research team that did this and that, this is unique. Not a lot of people did it. So remember, when you tell your story, tell only what is unique in you and your team. Next. We said that creating a startup is solving a problem. Make sure that people feel the pain and that they feel the problem, touch their emotions, and make sure that after they really understand the problem that you want to solve, make them see the light. As you can have the distance between your solution to the problem bigger, your chances basically to make the story right and get the results are higher. If the result, for example, is convincing someone to be your partner, you have nothing to give but your story. Keep it simple, not too many details. Not too many details. I see sometimes slides full of details and numbers, etc. And I'll give you a short tip to doing great presentation. I call it 10, 20, 30. 10 slides. Not more than 20 minutes, font 30, font big. It will remind you not to go too much to the details. If you have a demo, present. But remember that usually demo doesn't work. They always, doesn't work when you try to present them. So be careful about it. But if you have something to show, please do. What makes you unique? What makes you stand out compared to the others? Quite straightforward, clear to understand. How you'll make money out of it, or in our case also, how to create business that is sustainable. If you're talking about investors, the investor want to know that he will give you a certain amount of money and you will work very hard and you have a certain plan and a certain vision actually to make your business flourish. Explain this in short, but make sure that the message is clear. Opportunism, it's not a real word, it's a word that we invented actually, is understanding or explaining to others that you have unique knowledge of the market and the opportunity compared to anyone else. Make sure that you know your business and your market. It gives a lot of confidence. If for example, if you start up and come to speak with me about artificial intelligence, and I have to ask a few questions and understand that you don't know the market, you don't know the competition, you don't know the upcoming technologies, not so good. The team, make sure that slides are nice. Be at your best. Now, I'm wrapping up the presentation with very small tips. 1, start with a story. Tell a personal story. It creates the emotional connectivity between the crowd to you. And not only crowd, again, if it's investor, a partner, etc. Story works good. Second, pause. What happened? When I paused, all the attention was on me. You focused. And it's a very easy technique. You make sure that focus goes back to you. Imagine now green aliens now coming out of the roof and sitting just next to you. What happened? I ask you to imagine. I ask you to work. Each one imagine different scenario of those aliens. It's likely that we'll finish this session. You will remember this strange imagination thing that I asked you to do. Why? Because I asked you to do something. You did not just receive information, you worked, you imagined. It helped actually make sure a certain point is fixed in your mind. Lastly, humor, always work. And what we learned today, We learned today what is a social tech startup, how you can actually start a social tech startup and come with innovative idea and create innovative idea, and eventually how you tell the story. And this is it for now. And later on, we'll have time for questions also.
Thank you, Yoav. That was very engaging. So, Impact Tech. Why are we here? And if you want to hear Yoav again, you will be able to soon, because we're officially launching Impact Tech in Tokyo. And I'll tell you a little what Impact Tech is and what we do. So Impact Tech is an acceleration program that we empower impact-driven technologies that create meaningful impact on us as a society. So we operate, our headquarters is in Singapore, where I live, and we have offices in Bangkok. We have been running the operation, well, Impact Tech has been founded 3 years ago, and in Bangkok we work for the last 2 years, and we have offices in Hong Kong and now in Japan. And we also have some activities in Israel because Yoav and I are from Israel originally. Our program is a 3 to 4 month program, and each time we select a few startups, can be anything between 5 to 10 to 15. Each startup goes through a screening process. We like to see that the startups are innovative, that they have a clear business model, that the team is good, and of course that they can scale and grow. Each startup gets a mentor assigned to him. We have our workshops, and of course there's an office space. And at the end of this 3 to 4 month program, there's a demo day in which the startups pitch in front of investors or partners or people that can really support them in their journey. Until today, over 70 companies went through our programs. We have over 200 mentors globally in Singapore, Thailand, Israel, and soon in Japan. 85% of our companies are still active and growing. And last year, we were voted the second best acceleration program in Asia. These are just a few pictures from our programs. And we work with many, many partners. You can see a few big names. So we work with Shell, we work with Singtel in Singapore, we work with Amazon, Google, and Nippon Foundation, of course. And this list is growing and growing. It's just a few. And if you want to join us, then I would like to invite Mariko, which is our country manager here in Japan, to say a few words. Thank you.
日本のカントリーマネージャーを務めます芦田と申します。今はこんな風にカントリーマネージャーとして皆さんの前に立っていますけれども、実は私自身昨年、一参加者として皆さんと同じようにそちらの席に座って2人の話を聞いておりました。今日本では案内があった通り、日本のインパクテックジャパンを立ち上げる準備をしております。もし皆さんの中にこのソーシャルイノベーションに関わりたいと思っていらっしゃる方がいましたら、ぜひ私の方までご連絡をいただけたらと思います。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
And now, if anybody has any questions to Yoav, myself, or Mariko, please feel free to ask us. You can ask in Japanese also because we have a translation. So anybody have any questions? Yes. Will it be in English or Japanese, just so I know to prepare?
プレゼンテーションありがとうございました。
どうぞ。要約します、僕は。はい。
最後のところあったんですけど、新しくその日本の法人立ち上げるっていうことだったんですが、日本のその、ソーシャルインパクトとか、ソーシャルメジャリングとかっていうところでは、例えばまだ非営利団体の組織があまり大きくなかったりとか、それからクラウドファンディングだとか投資寄付の文化とかって、海外に比べてはまだまだだと思うんですが、なんで日本を選んだのか、なんかその市場の期待とかがあったのかなと思うんですが、そのあたりどのようにその日本の市場っていうのを見られているのかをちょっと教えていただけたらと思います。
Why did you choose Japan as a market?
Because of the sushi. No, I'm kidding. So I was here at the Social Innovation Forum 2016, and I presented Impact Tech. And after that, many people asked me and told me, "Wow, this is great. Why don't you do it in Japan?" Japan is a growing market now for startups, and as you have mentioned in the presentation, we believe in startups that create meaningful impact, but also generate meaningful revenue in order to grow and sustain. So in Japan, there's clearly many VCs, and this whole ecosystem of startups is really growing, and this is the time to be here. And a lot of social issues also, and we're sure that there will be amazing startups from Japan. You want to add anything? Okay.
いいですか？他にどうぞ。どっちも中国語とかあったとして。
I want to try in English. So, thank you for your presentation. I really impressive your presentation because I've been interested in startup. So I'd like to browse your website later. Then I have two questions to you. First one is just my curious. In your presentation, you didn't use that word entrepreneur. Are there any intention to do so? So I wonder that point. And the second one is, I really interested in the lean startup and the MVP. And could you tell me where or how can I learn MVP and the lean startup deeply?
So I'll start with the end. I highly recommend you to read the book, The Lean Startup. This is the name of the book, and it really explains in more details all the methodologies. The second question, or the first question about entrepreneur, from our perspective, whoever starts something new is entrepreneur. So there is no clear definition. You start something new, you're entrepreneur. I must also add that to be an entrepreneur is a great feeling, because in any product or service or whatever, you can replace everyone. You can replace the one who wrote the code, you can replace the designer, you can replace the architect if it's a building, but you cannot replace the founder, the entrepreneur.
Thank you. I'm gonna read that book.
はい、他にございますか？すごいありますね。これは後ろが4時までですけどじゃあ、まとめて2、3問いただきましょうか。Could you pick two of them, three of them? Okay. All right. じゃあこれ終わったらこの場で別個質問を受けるということなので、じゃあ2つ質問を受けたいと思います。Could you pick two of them? Raise your hands, please. すみません。挙手してください。
ありがとうございます。一つ質問なんですけれども、この投資の形っていうのも変わってくるのかなと思ってまして、 従来型の投資家っていうのはやっぱり分厚い企画書みたいな確実なその事業計画書みたいなもとに基づいて投資を決める。だけどこういうリーンスタートアップっていうのは不確実で何回も失敗を繰り返しながらっていうところがあるので、そういう投資家の在り方とか投資家像みたいなのも変わってくるのか、そこについて少しお考えをお聞かせください。
Indeed, it is changing. For early stage startups, investors today less and less expect to have this full-fledged business plan. They want to see something like the lean canvas and the entrepreneur's vision and passion. I must say that it's completely different when we're talking about more mature investments, when we are talking about round B and C. In an area of less uncertainty, a more detailed plan is required. But on the early stage, it is less required now. So we see a change.
ではもう一人の方。
So thank you for presentation and so welcome to Japan. So I'm 16 years old and I'm a Japanese high school student. So I have one question for Mr. Algresh. So simply question, okay? So what is the passion for your work? Please tell me about.
Yeah. When I see people change, for me it's really rewarding. And for us in Impact Tech, if we can help people change, it's really fun, I must say. And it's amazing to see how individuals create this impact by using technology. And we are a vehicle to help them change and adopt toward fulfilling their vision, fulfilling where they want to go. So I think this drives us, this gives us, as you mentioned, the passion to do what we want, to see that we are part of a change.
よろしいでしょうか。
Thank you very much.
ではお時間となりました。でこの後ですけれども、1階の食堂に移動していただければ名刺交換やご質問のタイミングを設けております。この会場は次の分科会のためにちょっと完全に入れ替え制になっておりますので、皆様お忘れ物なきよう、ご退出ください。では最後登壇者のキネットとヨアフとマリコさんに拍手をお願いします。